Hello once again, and that is the name of my character, 1. And yes, 1 is very awesome. That was because I pressed 1 for the record button. Very smooth start. So hello and welcome to Dungeons of Dredmor. I am Cube Mario, and today I am pretty much rebooting my whole walkthrough thingy, LP thingy of Dungeons of Dredmor. I'm going to call my character very dumb, and he may die very quickly because this is a roguelike. We're just going to jump back in here. So I essentially consider this a complete redo of what I've done previously. I wasn't very happy with what I did previously, so I consider this a do-over. So I'm doing the same thing as last time in that this is short floors, because the long floors take way too long and would require a lot of editing. So this is a very promising first shop. There is quite a bit here that looks really quite good, especially on the first floor. And that little pause there from the game happens from time to time. It's just how this game performs at times, usually when it auto-saves, but that was not the case that time. Not really sure what's up with that, but we're not going to worry about it. So, my character, you haven't seen what it's spec'd like, so I'm going to inform you about that right now. So I have these swords, dual-wielding, berserker stuff, master of arms, perception, burglary, and assassination. So this is my loadout for this particular character. I may try this particular skill loadout more than once, and I'm going to be leveling up very quickly because I have the short floors on. So I'm not entirely familiar with everything in this game because this is a very large game, but I'm significantly better at this game than I once was. So that's definitely going to help things tremendously as we go along here. So I got a leather belt, and that's one of the many pieces of gear you get in this game. Unlike a lot of other roguelikes that you may or may not be familiar with, Dungeons of Dredmor has a lot of gear in it. Very much kind of like a Diablo type system. And I find that very interesting. So these bookcases provide recipes, and I'm not going to be using them because I don't have any crafting skills for this particular character that I'm on. So as you can see, I just leveled up, and I get to pick my first skill. Since I have burglary, the lucky pick is the first choice, the best choice for starters. There's pretty much no build I can think of where you would want to not pick burglary because of the lucky pick skill. Lucky pick is fantastic because it essentially gives you infinite lock picks, which provide experience when you pick doors and chests and so on. You also get a lot more loot out of chests, which is extremely useful. So, there's these teleportation pads, which I don't use very often because I don't like how, intense they can be. Sometimes you get stuck in some bad spots, and I'm not particularly ready for that yet. So even though I'm spec'd to swords, it doesn't matter if I use another weapon right now, because I'm not taking any extra penalty for that. There's no punishment for using another weapon, you just don't get all the benefits. So I'm missing out on about 2 slashing damage right now. But since I don't have any other weapon, it doesn't really matter, so it just makes sense either way. So I started this again, this whole walkthrough LP thing again, because this is an entirely new expansion, a new DLC, which has added quite a lot to the game. And I'm not even sure what everything has been added. I've only really tested about the first couple floors, and died a lot of times too, so that's very promising. So I would expect quite a few deaths, unless I get extremely lucky on this first floor. Yeah, roguelikes, particularly this one, and I don't know, any of them really. You die a lot, it's just how it goes. And I have permadeath on because that's the only true way to play these games, so I don't really see a point in using anything but permadeath, because otherwise all the excitement is taken out of the game and there are no real surprises. So I already stole from these. I didn't mention it though, but with burglary you do get to steal a first item out of the vending machines. It could be a random item, but you get 1 free item essentially. And yeah, that's really nice to have. It's very useful. And that was a trap I walked into, and it amazingly did no damage. Probably because my fire resistance is so high. So, we have a lot of food here. We have a lot of... pretty much just a lot of items. This game has a ton of items in it, and you're going to have seen a lot more there's quite a few new items as well with this new DLC. Which, by the way, getting this DLC was not very convenient. I had to actually go to the Steam store page and get it there. I had to register it to my Steam account. For some reason, this is not just applied on the patch, which is very strange, because I figured that, you know, it would totally do that, but nope, you have to go to the Steam store page. So I made a vending machine here. I have no idea how those combinations work. They could be entirely random, but it doesn't really matter, because it has very little impact on the game, and it's not worth messing with that stuff. So every now and then I'm using my Lucky Pick skill to get more lockpicks, because that's how these things go. And I'm flipping all these switches, because why not? One thing that I've noticed that's a pretty big change is that these death enemies, called death of course, they show up on the first floor, which did not happen before. It was very strange, and I'm not very familiar with that, because I think it's something new, and it definitely makes the first floor even worse and a lot harder. So, in terms of skill prioritization, there's a lot of options for me to choose, but I'm going to go with something safe. I'm going to go with offensive maneuvering next, because that's pretty much a straight-up buff, and that's pretty much what you need on these first couple floors of the game, where the game is really sometimes at its hardest, in a manner of speaking. These first few floors are really quite critical. So, actually seeing quite a few good items, so far I'm having much better luck than I did in any of my practice runs. And now that luck has died. For some reason, I had this same thing happen to me in practice, where these unfriendly AI pop up, and I literally can't do anything to them, and they just hit me for a lot. Looks like a glitch, and I could be on my way to death once again. It really looks extremely likely, because there's no way for me to defend myself. I probably should have left well enough alone, because I'm in some pretty bad situation right now. I am so dead. Not a lot I can see on how to get out of this. Oh wait, I could. No, I'm so dead. I can't get on the pad. It's over. And food is not going to save me either. So, I'm going to be accepting death. And there we go, that's my first death. I'm very proud of myself. And I'm not going to open that up again on the first floor. Lesson learned. So, I'm going to keep going at it. Same build as last time. Going to call this guy very, very dumb. If it'll fit. Yes, it does fit. Just barely, though. Wait, so let's try again. See if I have some better luck. I may not. It was looking good up until that point, and I've learned a lesson. Never to go in there again, because that was awful. Just terrible. Just gonna leave well enough alone. I did not need to click on that, but I got a Bolt Eruptor recipe, which is really useless because you get that item a ton later on into the game in the last few floors. That shows up like a bajillion times, and that is really not something that's going to be useful to me. Unless it got enchanted or something, and I had some really good luck that something special. Probably not going to happen, but we'll see. So when you drink these things, you can sometimes get items. That's really why I'm using them. I don't really care about the buffs. The buffs don't normally help me because there's no enemies around. These crystals heal you. Yeah, real fascinating. Moving on. Loot Fisk statue. These are really not worth it, I find, most of the time. You have to get a lot of Loot Fisk, which I'll explain that mechanic briefly later on. But now it's time for my first level up again. So, lucky pick as last time. It's gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna stick with this certain procedure for now and see how it works for me. I'll change it up if I have to. So as you can see, Berserker Rage has been proccing quite a bit. Proccing is an MMO term if you're not familiar with that. I'm not even sure what the origin of that word means, but essentially it just means that it's triggering. Triggering is probably a better word. Proccing is a very nerdy term. And nobody here is nerds, right? So, no nerds watching this at all. Absolutely none. Only serious, serious men here. One big difference I've noted, too, is that there are a lot more traps in this expansion, DLC, or whatever you want to call it. Plenty more traps. Traps aplenty indeed. How many times do you think I'm gonna say plenty? I think it's gonna be quite a lot. Okay. So a sickly Daigle, not the greatest thing to run into right now, but I'm doing alright for myself. The debuff is not really helpful for my particular build, or class, or whatever. So this is another Anvil of Krong. I'm going to ignore it like I normally do. I'm pretty paranoid when I use those things. Oh great, another trap that I almost died to. Could have been an acid bolt, and then I would have been in big trouble. Acid bolt traps are a terrible, terrible thing, and you're probably going to see more and more of that in these videos. So far, even though I'm spec'ing swords and I'm using entirely different weapons, I'm doing extremely well right now. Managed to get those couple decent pieces of gear early on. Those two weapons, the axe and the mace, helping tremendously with my damage output, which is extremely important on these first couple floors. So I think I'm going to go with offensive maneuvering again. I'm gonna see and try my luck with that, see if that makes a lot of difference. So I got an upgrade. If I'm gonna... Okay. These things, this inventory can be a little finicky at times. I got it now, but it kind of did things strangely on me there, but I corrected it. It didn't really select what I wanted it to select, which is kind of strange, but it's been known to happen. So that was an enchanted item I picked up, and a really poorly enchanted item at that, but I can sell it for a slightly more amount of Zorkmids, which is the currency in this game, which I'm just going to call gold probably, or just money. And my trapping for, what's it called, trap affinity is really quite good right now because I got that burglary thing. So this weapon probably better my best interest to replace. Alright, because this has extra damage and it's spec towards my specialization for swords, the sword skill. So I don't think the rough iron axe is going to be much use to me, but I can sell it, so I should just hold on to it anyway. So this is Loot Fisk. It's on the ground. You pick it up. It has a really long description. This game has a lot of funny descriptions for things, and that is a very, very nice ring. That's a pretty good haul. I'm very satisfied with getting that from that place of all things. You usually see crap there. But of course, since this game has a lot of random factors to it, there are many surprises you get in each time you play. Definitely not the same game each time. It's completely different, all randomly generated. It's part of what makes it entertaining, really. It's a big part of it. If this game was the same every time, I would have beat it by now. I've not beaten this game yet, at least when you count the expansion, because I've made it past floor 10, which is the default. Another nice ring, can't get it because I have no means to reach that island with the current abilities I have. And neither in the future will I be able to get on those islands. As part of the risk of my build, I do miss out on some loot that is very good, and it's just part of how it goes. But you may never see these islands, so again, lots of random stuff, so I'm not counting on seeing those, you know, a lot, so I don't really see a reason to spec into that. So I did another drink thing, a pretty good buff there, Regal Vim. Really nice, and unfortunately this looks completely blocked off. This is something new. Not sure if that's intentional or just a developer glitch, but hopefully there's a way in there. Guess we'll find out soon enough, since these floors are fairly short and I can get through them a lot faster than I used to. So, these levels are going so quick. I'm not used to playing on short floors. I usually do long floors. There's certain trade-offs with them. Sometimes it's better to do long floors, I guess, depending on preference and playstyle. The thing that long floors lend themselves to is better loot. You typically spend a lot more time on each floor, so therefore have a much higher chance of finding better loot. So that's one reason I typically prefer the longer floors, is because it's more safe, but it does take quite a lot longer. So that is kind of the trade-off with these things. So I'm nervous to do this again, but hopefully there's no unfriendly AI. It looks safe enough. Yeah, this is the place, so I can indeed reach it. And it looks safe. Yep. Just the Daigles. And I can handle those, no problem. even if they're enraged. Definitely a good start in this one. Definitely got off to a rocky start earlier, but it's certainly looking up now. Yep. These rock elements are pretty new. They are just obviously meant to block you off more and to make you go more alternate routes, or just to look, you know, amazing, I guess. I don't know. These beautiful rock textures. They look so beautiful. And that's all I have to say about that. This is a bronze dagger. Pretty good. I'm not going to complain. I'll replace that. Also sort my inventory because that is a good thing to do. It's just one button away. So these statues I failed to mention, but fairly obvious, they give you a pretty high amount of experience when you break them. As they call it, heroic vandalism. It is really nice when you find those, but I'm pretty sure that they don't show up on every floor. It's fairly random. I'm pretty certain that in my many playthroughs of this game that I have not always seen those around, so your mileage will definitely vary on that. So I'm gonna take a shortcut here since I've explored everything in this area. I'm gonna take a pad, and looks like it paid off. Little teleportation there, as they call it, satanic displacement glyph. This is a monolith from 2001 Odyssey, Space Odyssey. Don't like the movie personally for many reasons I won't get into because it's off topic, but to say the least, really did not like that movie, and I gave it a fair chance too. But yes, it's a pop culture reference. May as well point it out since it's fairly obvious. And I do like pointing out the obvious sometimes. So I just want to check that again. There's no horrific Lutefisk cube. So I'm just going to continue on. These gems are hardly worth picking up, but I guess they're helpful early on. They give you a decent amount of money if you get enough of them, but they can clutter up your inventory like nobody's business, so I'm not so sure if I'll keep picking them up, but we'll see. I think I'll find out what the shop has, if there is a shop on this floor. I've had a few... Okay, there's that unfriendly AI again. Not going to open that. I'll let him be, because I don't want to kill myself again. That would be bad. Very bad. So, usually when I pull these levers, something happens. Like, sometimes you open up Uber chests. I haven't seen Uber chests in quite a while. This is a really nice piece of armor, which I'm probably going to buy if I can get enough money for it, but I may not be able to afford that for a very long time, and it could be obsolete by then. It's kind of how these things can go. So I don't really see a lot of amazing items here, and a lot of them are really quite expensive. Well, that's good. I guess I stand corrected. There are some really nice items in the shop, but unfortunately the majority of them I can't afford and probably won't be able to for a very long time. That's usually, it's very luck-based, but unless I find some really expensive items to sell, which I have not so far, this is going to be not helpful to me at all and could in fact end my run prematurely. I did not notice I got this, but I'm going to use it because why not? It's an upgrade. So it's a very decent necklace for starters. No idea why it's so much, but something to do with bling. How much does that sell for? Decent amount, but it's worth holding on to for now. I can always sell that later, no problem. So I think that this is pretty much a decent start. I'm not really too optimistic, but we'll see how it goes.